Hello, everyone. In my last recording, I told you about the games that I have an eye on. One of them is Enlisted. Enlisted is a free to play World War II shooter that seems to be doing fairly well for a beta based game. Since that recording, I did notice one of the other free to play shooters that I used to play is still around, and that one's called Ironsight. I decided to do a recording to tell you about both of them and kind of give a comparison as to which one is which for certain people. Okay, let's start with Ironsight since this is going to be the most confusing. Ironsight used to be two different versions. There was the North America version and then the international version. The North America version was handled by Area Games. International is Whipple. What happened in the last couple years, I haven't played it, is they decided to collapse the North America version and just give everybody the international version. That one is currently in open beta. With that change, it means now that people who were with Area Games have to completely restart due to it being a completely different version and, of course, under different management. So, yes, it will take some time to get back to where some people were for those that stuck around for the Area Game Days. So, that's kind of like what's happened and what to expect. Now, let's talk about the gameplay. The gameplay hasn't really changed much. They've added a few new guns and cosmetics to the game, plus battle passes, but it still shares the same problems as it did with the area days. Those problems do include balancing issues, netcode issues, disconnects, and a few other problems. Normally, I would make some exceptions for free to play games because they are free, but this is the one time where I'm just like, is it really worth it? Normally, netcode issues aren't a huge deal in terms of like combat and stuff, but in this game, it's pretty bad. There are times where bullets just simply do not register. You could put a ton of bullets into a person and they won't die just because of the fact that the bullets just don't register. That's the type of netcode issues I'm talking about with Ironsight. For games like Warhammer Vermintide 2, there are definitely some netcode issues in which enemies' attacks do connect to you at visual distances that should not happen. But in those cases, it's very easy to work around it. Either you just block more or you push more. That's really all you do. But unfortunately, in Ironsight, there's not really a way around the netcode issue because it just simply exists. So unfortunately, the bullets not registering are just too much of a problem right now. I would say another major issue that I have with it is the disconnects. It's not my internet connection that's the issue. I check it every time a disconnect happens, but it's just simply the North America servers. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with that either, but it is relatively obnoxious. It doesn't happen too frequently, maybe 2 to 3 times every 2 or 3 hours, maybe somewhere around there. It is obnoxious and it certainly hurts my gameplay, but other than that, it doesn't seem to happen too much more often. Still obnoxious, so that combined with the netcode issues kind of just adds to my reasons for not making exception for this game. One other thing too that does have my attention, but I don't know what it is. It's one of those situations. I'm very good with recoil management. I played a lot of shooter games ranging from Battlefield series, Medal of Honor, all the way up to Call of Duty. So my recoil management is very good. I've learned to work with weapons that people hate. I advocated for the Dragunov in Warzone because I got that good at it. And I was at a point of being able to teach people to be just as good with the Dragunov. So I've certainly had some displays on this channel of how good I am with certain aspects of the game. If I'm not good with a certain aspect of the game, I will gladly admit it. I'm a person who is quick to acknowledge a mistake and correct it. But in this game, there are just a lot of times where I run into a player that simply has zero recoil. I don't know if it has to do with cheating or if perhaps it's like a strike pack or something, but I can definitely tell that there are times when the enemy has zero recoil. When I was playing it, I think it was 2 nights ago, there was a person, one player in the entire lobby, that literally was hitting me in the head all the time. There was not a single time that they missed my head that entire match. So I could definitely tell that something fishy is going on between that match and a couple prior ones. I'm very good with recoil management, as I was saying, and I was certainly doing my best to control the weapon and hit them in return. But even with me burst firing it, they were just able to full auto. See, that's another thing too that kind of tells me like something fishy is going on. They were just full autoing it, which means holding down the trigger. I can tell you that I've tried using the guns that they've done this, that they've used for this, or done to me, and I can tell you that full auto, I can't control that. It has to be fired and burst, but yeah, for some reason they managed to make it work in full auto. For sure something fishy is going on. I don't know what it is, but it's certainly a problem. I did notice that I'm not the only one that is making these observations. There are other players in the communities noticing the same thing. So yeah, the short version is there's just a lot of issues with Ironsight gameplay right now. Just way too many for me to really recommend it. With that said, let me get into what Ironsight's for, assuming that they can even fix Ironsight. So assuming Ironsight gets fixed, Ironsight's going to be more for people who are used to shorter, faster games, maybe like Counter-Strike, Valorant, or one of those. I would say those would be a pretty relative close comparison in terms of just fast gameplay, quick shooting, and all that. I would for sure say that those would be closer comparisons. If that's the game for you and you want to put up with the issues right now, then feel free to download Ironsight from Steam. But if you want to wait until they fix these issues, then don't download it. That's all I can really say on Ironsight. Let me move on to Enlisted. Enlisted's a free-to-play World War II shooter, so it's a complete opposite of Ironsight. Ironsight's more futuristic, but with Enlisted, it's got more of a Battlefield vibe in which it's very large-scale battles. There are definitely airplanes, vehicles, and other things going on with the game. So there's that. The one thing that I can appreciate about Enlisted in comparison to Ironsight is the very smooth gameplay. I would have to say that Enlisted's sniping feels the smoothest out of any game I have played so far. That's a pretty hard achievement to accomplish for really any game, but especially a free-to-play game. Because normally with free-to-play games, you make some sort of compromise, whether that be in graphics or something, but there does not appear to be any kind of compromise, at least with the core combat mechanics. There might be something elsewhere, but I'm not seeing it yet. So there is that. I do like that you get to manage all of your squads and stuff, talents and whatnot. So that's really cool to see. Enlisted certainly has a lot of depth to it, certainly a lot more than Battlefield did. So while it certainly does carry that Battlefield vibe, it does have more in-depth than Battlefield. There are certainly a lot of good things I can say about it, and how cool it is that certain things are that in-depth. But ultimately, I would say that for people who want to look into Enlisted, it's going to be more for people who come from large-scale games like Battlefield, Warzone are one of those. You just have to keep in mind that this game is going to be a little bit faster paced than Battlefield, but slower than Call of Duty, Warzone. So it's kind of in between the two is where I'm seeing it. Now, somebody else might play and see it differently, but that is at least what I have noticed. That's kind of what this game is for, and I certainly have a lot of positives to say about it. Positives that would take me too long to get through. In conclusion, I would say that I can recommend Enlisted, but I can't recommend Ironsight. I can mention Ironsight at the very least, because Ironsight does have some interesting ideas behind it, but ultimately it's a broken game right now, and it will take some time before they fix it. There are a lot of issues, like I was saying. Enlisted is not anywhere near those level of issues. The worst that I've had with Enlisted is maybe a few crashes, blue screens in particular, but I think that has to do more with the drivers and my video card than it does the game. It could be a combination of the two, but I think my drivers are more to blame than the game, based on what I've been reading, but we'll see where that goes. So that's kind of like the most I can really say about these two. I would for sure recommend Enlisted. Don't touch Ironsight unless you want to deal with the issues. Those would be the games that I could see, that I could definitely see other people playing until the other two games come out. I didn't mention my past recordings, so let me just go ahead and talk about Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2. Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2 is the next one after the first one, which was a pretty recent one. You can actually find Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts, the first one, on Steam sales at times. So if you kind of want to get an idea as to what the game is about, I recommend picking that up when it's on sale. But as far as number 2 is concerned, number 2 is going to be a much larger scale than the first one, as evident by the trailers. One of the trailers that came out towards the start of the announcement showed off a 1,700 meter snipe, which is a very long distance. You can even see that in the video at how long it is. But yeah, it's definitely much larger in size from what I can see. I would say, based on what I've seen, it's even larger scale than Sniper Elite 4. So yes, very, very large. This will be a great game for people who just want a chill shooter, not necessarily something that's multiplayer, because it gives you a break from all the crappy teammates and other things you have to deal with when it comes to these kinds of online games, like Enlisted and Ironsight and the others. So, I see that they've also changed things around. There's newer bullet types and things like that. So I'm very interested to see what happens with Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2, but just like Back 4 Blood, we're going to have to wait a while. So that's kind of why I was wanting to talk about Enlisted and Ironsight, so that I could at least mention some games for you all to check while we wait for these two to come out. And I do want to also recommend Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 1 or 2 if you want to try those out during your wait as well. Or at least when 2 comes out, and if you want to try 1 now. My bad. So really, that's all I can say on the matter. Thanks for listening.